Hey YouTube, how you guys doing tonight? Kevin here coming at you with another video. We're back on Dave's bike. This is the TS125 Dave's bike 1980. Beautiful machine. And we're going to glue these two halves together. First, let me start off by saying, sorry I haven't been putting out much content lately because I have been busy working on equipment for people. It has been absolutely a nightmare trying to get into here, and then if it wasn't, what do you call it there? Working on stuff, it was the weather. So finally we have an absolutely beautiful, stunning night, and I'm able to get out here. So tonight we're going to be gluing this case together. I'd like to get this bike done by the end of the week, if at all possible. So, and we have all the parts and pieces here to do that. So we're going to go ahead and be working on this every night this week to get this bike glued together, back up and running, and have a first start and kick it around and ride this bad boy. You know what I'm saying? So, well, let me get you guys in the stand. But before I do, if you haven't already, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so when I post a video, you get it. And I also want to say welcome to all my new subscribers. I haven't said that in a while, and I keep forgetting to say that, and I felt bad about it. I'm like, oh my God, I got to remember to say that because I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart because it means a lot to me, all your support. And you know, your comments are great, and there's a lot of great comments, and hopefully that this channel right here helps you out with your bike build. So well, let me get you guys in the stand and we will get crack-a-lacking and we'll get this thing put together. I have a lot of technical stuff to show you and talk to you guys about tonight. All right, so got you guys in the stand. We have our engine gasket case all cleaned up. Now what I want to show you guys, and this is the most important thing, okay? When you're cleaning these gasket surfaces, you want to make sure that they are 100% clean, the best of your ability, I mean, to the point where you can eat off of them. I want to show you the section of the engine that is most critical, okay? And here it is. So when you're looking at one of these engine blocks, let me shrink you guys down a second, hold on. So you can see what I'm looking at. Okay. All right. So when you're looking at an engine, this cavity right here, this space, this area right here, this is your transmission area. This area over here is your engine area, your crankcase. This is what does the actual moving, and the high speed stuff is right here. And then this is all your gear changes and all your gears. Now, oil doesn't lubricate this area. Oil that is mixed with fuel when it comes through the injector, you know, the oil injection system, lubricates this area. So the oil that you put in here does not flow into here. So it's very imperative that this gasket surface right here is clean and smooth and not gouged up. Because when we put the silicone on that, that's what seals the engine case from the transmission side. Okay? Now, if you have a leak on this section right here, okay, you're going to suck in engine oil and you could have a lean condition, especially if it sucks it in up here. So say it leaks right here, you're going to be sucking air through your vent. All right, so you want to make sure that this is completely sealed up. Now typically I use the Honda Bond. Tonight I'm not, because on these Suzukis I haven't had much good luck with Honda Bond. So what I'm using right here is what do you call it there, 3 Bond 1184. This stuff is great, but once you get it together, it's pretty damn near hard to get back apart. Okay, now before I get into gluing this bad boy together, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about something else. Some of the amazing questions that I get from my fellow subscribers and you guys, and this is why I like to take the time and to explain things to you guys, because well, one, it's very important that you guys do these correctly, and it's to answer questions so you don't have to struggle so much when you're taking these things apart. So I had a subscriber talk about his DS100 in the which is the same as the TS125 here. Okay, TS100, basically the DS80, all that type of stuff. And the starter, the Kickstarter has been stripped out. Okay, and how do you replace the Kickstarter shaft? And one of the things with that is there's a little keeper that screws in right here. And there's actually a piece that goes over it, and it looks like this. This is one part of it, and then there's another part that stops the kick when it comes around, okay, to prevent it from, you know, overdoing. So basically you'd have to wind that up. But we're not going to do that right now. I want to show you guys how to get this out, because a lot of people strip the bike down like I have done on this one, and they're trying to get this starter shaft out, this, you know, the kick starter shaft out, and they can't. They took it all apart. They're pulling on it. They're putting a pry bar behind it. And they're Kevin, how hard is it to take that out? Well, unfortunately, with these Suzukis, you have to pretty much split the case for everything. So if you're going to do a crank seal, you have to split the case. If you have to do a Kickstarter, you have to split the case. And when you see this part, it's going to look a lot like a Kawasaki KE100, because you have the spring is inside the case. Now, part of the reason for keeping the spring inside the case is so the transmission fluid keeps it lubricated. And what does that do? Well, the spring acts as a couple things, having it inboard. The spring will actually take some of the heat, and it won't rust and fatigue. Okay, so to get the Kickstarter out, I want to show you this. Once you split your case, you take the center part out, which is just like on the KE100s. Then you pop your spring out, and the shaft will come right out. Now what we're going to do real quick is we're going to compare this shaft to a KD80 shaft. And I want to show you how close they are. I happen to have a KD80 Kickstarter shaft. And this is what the the DS80 looks like. Okay, and this one's a spiral cut shaft, but see the hole? That's for the spring. This part right here, the shank, fits into the case to support it. The spring fits here, and then the rest of it has the mechanism on it, and this goes through the case. All right, all this stuff is internal, so you're not going to see any of this. Okay, well, this part's inside the case like that, and then the rest of this you'll be able to see and go, how come I can't get that out? It's because this mechanism right here is what's stopping you. So I wanted to show you that, and it's the same on the DS80 and the DS100s, the TS, the TC. All those Suzukis are pretty much like that. So I wanted to bring that to your attention and show you, because it's kind of a pain in the neck when you take it apart and you think you got it, and you're like, what the hell is holding this thing? I'm getting so frustrated. It's actually the return spring. All right, let me get this motor moved back, and we're going to install the side cover. Oh, I did have one other question I almost forgot to answer. Jeez, I'm losing my mind. Kevin, when I kick my bike over, my DS80, or my, not my DS80, my TS125, and my, what do you call it there, DS100, it feels like the starter slips. It goes, I have tightened up my Kickstarter. It is extremely tight, and there is no play. What could be going on? Do you see these? I'm going to pull this apart. Show you. So there is another gear which you're going to see on this thing that has receivers for these dogs. Okay, see these dogs right here? If these edges right here get rounded off, okay, there are, what do you got, 6 of them? If they get rounded off, what will happen is when you go to kick the bike, instead of grabbing the gear to turn it, it's actually going to hop over it. It's going to like a bad ratchet. It's going to be like, you're just going to keep missing it. And what happens is, like I said, if you keep kicking it and it's not engaging correctly, what will happen is these dogs will wear out. Typically, what causes that is this spring right here fails and is more constricted like that, and is supposed to be wide open. So what happens is this spring puts tension on this drive gear. There's a sprocket here with cogs, and it grabs it and turns it. Well, if this spring is worn, so it's a little thinner, okay, and it's not pulling out as much, what'll happen is it won't have the proper tension, and it will strip it out. Okay, so you got to keep that's what causes it. You got to keep your eyes open for that type of stuff. Okay, and it's real simple to put together. This is just a washer, what do you call it there? A thrust washer. It fits in there like that. Nothing fancy. There's only one way to go in. All right, now on with the show. Okay, so now we're going to put the starter gear back in, which this can be a pain in the neck because this one has a tendency to keep falling out. Okay, just happens that way. And let's see here. There's a hole right there, and that's for the starter gear itself. That goes in like so. Come on. Okay, and then there is a spot in here right there that boss holds it. I have also seen the transmissions come apart, break that little boss off, and then it doesn't kick. It just keeps going around and around and around. And then your plastic piece has this little slot. This can go in either direction. It doesn't matter. And just like that. That right there is the spacer that holds the spring where it needs to be when you kick it. Because when you kick it, the spring actually shrinks a little bit, and that keeps it into its proper place. When you go to put this in, this spring, this cup right here is going to want to fall out. So when you grab this and you flip it upside down very carefully, you have to kind of make sure that you have it kind of like this when you set it on there. Okay? Alright, and if you put it down, you can just put it right down on the Kickstarter and it will hold it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe up all my gasket surfaces one more time and then hit everything with the assembly lube one more time, keeping the gasket surface clean. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to wipe this all down with a rag. Okay. So now I wiped down the whole case. That's all set. Now I'm going to show you guys some technical stuff that you absolutely must check and make sure on your check-off list. Okay. First thing, you want to make sure you have your 2 dowel pins. These right here align your case. If you do not have those, the case could actually shift and cause binding, and of course, after a bit, engine destruction. All right, and stuff will come loose. Your threads will wear. It will be a mess. So make sure you have your 2 alignment dowel pins inserted. Okay, there's one right here and one right here, and you can tell by the big diameters. Okay. Next thing, you want to make sure you have 2 thrust washers. One right here and one right here. Okay, they are not interchangeable, so I'll show you. You can't put this one on here, it won't fit. You can put this one on here, but it'll be too sloppy. Okay, so, and they are 2 different thicknesses, so it's very important to have those in the proper spot, like so. Okay, another very important part is this right here is where the crank seal right here rides. So this has to be extremely smooth and clean. It's imperative. Okay, connecting rod is safest when it's all the way down and facing straight up. Okay, so these are some preparation things that you guys can do. All right, so that right there was preparation G. Now we're going to move on to preparation H. Now on the whole, that feels pretty good. So let's just keep continuing. Okay. Now on this right here, you're going to lubricate quite a few things. You're going to lubricate the shaft, the crank seal surface area, your 2 thrust washers, and these 2 shaft pins right here, and this surface. This surface actually is a bearing surface that rides in the case. All right, and then of course this little whole area right here. I'm gonna move you over here so you can see it. This is important. Okay, you can actually see the dowel pin, and you can see this hole right here. This is for your Kickstarter shaft. All right, so these are all very important things. So we're going to take some Permatex. I am not sponsored by them. I wish I was. So Permatex, if you're listening, you could I can definitely do this for you. Permatex Ultra Slick Engine Assembly Lube. I use this stuff on pretty much every single engine, seal, or anything I'm putting together. This stuff is the bomb. It's very tacky. It works good. Alright. Now, let's get you guys put back into position and shrink you down. Alright, so for this, I put a healthy dose of it on this. And go, oh, you don't need that much. You only need a little bit. Listen, you know what? I'm building the engine, and I say, coat it. Because a dry seal is a very unhappy seal. And an unhappy seal means you're doing this again. You want to do this again? No. You want to enjoy the bike. You want to ride the bike. So that's what this is all about. You want to make sure you get these shafts, because these shafts have to slide into the bearing slots. Very important, so I go with my arms in the way. And if you put it up in, you put a little bit of oil on the top there, when it presses down, it'll actually push it around it. So it's pretty neat. This stuff is very, very tacky, which is why it works so well. Okay. Now we have all the spots on this case half lubricated. Are we done? Not even close, bud. Alright, so let's move this up here. Get that out of the way. I have this half of the engine right here. So what are we going to lubricate on this one? Well, we want to make sure that we put oil on the inside of this lip on the seal. Even though we lubed it up there, we want to make sure we have lube on the inside of the main seal. It is imperative that you lube that seal all the way around, because a dry seal is a very unhappy seal. You wouldn't want an unhappy seal, would you? That means you'd have to pull apart this whole case to do this seal again. Okay, now we also have another spot. Here is a needle bearing and a roll bearing. We want to make sure we get those. The needle bearing can be a pain in the neck. I'm just using my finger, kind of pushing it in there. Even though you already lubricated the shaft, then I rotate it. Make sure it spins good, which this one does. I'm going to put some on the bearing itself. And rotate that around a little bit. Make that all nice and happy. Same thing with the Kickstarter shaft. Up in there. And then you have your two spots right here for your two pins. Lubricate where the drum is going to be sitting. Even though we have it on the other side, I always do it on both sides. And then this side here is most overlooked. This is your kickstart, your shifter shaft. Okay, so you want to make sure you have that. Now that doesn't go on the inside, that goes on the outside. But okay, now we are all lubed up on this case. Now for another inspection. Now you want to make sure you didn't get any assembly lube on the gasket surface, which I did right there. And look where it's located, guys. So I'll show you this. But Kevin, that's such a little bit. That's what it takes to make that, what do you call it there? That RTV silicone not to fit there. Not to glue down. Okay? So you want to make sure you have all that surface clean and that there is no oil on it. And then I'm going to check this side over here, which all looks good. and then we can start gluing this thing together. So I'm going to put down a thin layer of silicone over the whole thing, and then we'll install it. Okay, so now I have all the way glued. I'm double checking to make sure I didn't miss any spots, any parts and pieces, and make sure no oil transferred over to it. And we're good. So everything's oiled, everything's inspected, and everything is, well, should we say, kind of loosey-goosey in there, which is how we want it. So does that mean it's going to go together easy for us? Probably not. These always fight you. It's just how it is. You're going to have a shaft that's going to move. It's going to be in the way. Something's going to happen. So, but once you know that, it's just how it is. Okay, so we coned everything. Everything's siliconed. So let's get this top cover put on. And holding the spring piece in there. Just flip it around. And then I put this right over the top. Okay. And we're starting to go in. Just like so. Now once we get it into place, we can then tap it down a little bit and find out where it's going to be giving us the problem. Okay. Yep, the different shafts. Remember I was telling you? It's just how they're going to be lining up for us. Okay. Yep. Okay. Looks like our starter spring is causing the bind. This is why I tell you guys, don't get frustrated, because it's going to happen. What we're going to do, I take our brass hammer, tap that up, like so. Move our spring in more. Let's see if we can get it past that gear. I like butter. Okay. Patience. And then we're going to fix the shifter shaft here, which is on that sprocket there, which is fine. We will do that. See if we can rotate it so it fits in. Okay. Yep. I'm going to have to remove those 4 bolts right there and take that out. Okay. And now, put this together like so. Boom, boom, boom. It's all going together. Shafts are moving in nicely. Connecting rod is in place. Okay. We still have to go down a little ways, but that's okay. See if we can move that. Crankshaft, yeah. We'll crank a little bit more. Okay. Good. All looking good. We still have a little bit of a gap, do we? Yep, just up on this end over here. Over here it's closing up quite nicely. Okay. Looks like we're good there, huh? We are together, guys. Shafts are turning. Nobody's mad. Nobody's binding up. Good. Everything's the shifting drum. Everything is moving. shifter, crank, all that. Okay, now when I do this, this little power here is going to come out. So I can take this out now, I guess. Take this out now for now because I want that to go flying on the floor. Okay. Because I have to rotate this. Now this is in there. The kickstart is in there. That piece has to be put back together on that, but not a big deal. We'll get to that point. Just double checking everything is looking good. And there's a slight gap, which will close up in a minute when we put some screws in it. Okay. There we go. Just like that. Boom. Okay. Now we got this like this. Time to grab our trusty, yes, pizza box. Rear, front, connecting rod, top screw. Now what we'll do is I'll go around. I'm going to set those all into place. Okay. And voila. All the screws are back where they came from. Now I'm not going to take my drill and just start winding these in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my regular number 3 Phillips and I'm just going to give them all a little turn in. You want to start them at least 3 turns because if you don't, you can strip out the holes. I am going to use my electric impact on them, but I don't want to hurt anything. You know what I mean? Okay. Now, keeping tradition with the number 3 Phillips, I'm going to use this one right here. I'm not tightening them. I'm just like that, like that. Just gently till they just seat, maybe a little extra twist. Okay, now they are all sucked down, just seated. They're not tight. The reason for that is I want to go over and check everything one more time. Make sure that all my gaps are closed all the way around the case. And they are. Case looks amazing. I can't wait to pressure wash this bad boy. Now I didn't pressure wash this at first because I didn't want, if there where the leak was, I didn't want anything to get inside of it. So it's nice and clean in there. Everything's good. So I don't mind the dirt on the outside. We'll pressure wash this. We're going to actually wash this after. We'll show you guys how to do that after we get this thing all put back together. Now I'm going to use the impact and I'm going to tighten it. But when I do it, I'll show you. Like that. Like that. That. Then I'll do the transmission part of this. Now the case has all been going around. Now, believe it or not, I gotta do it again. But what I like to do is I like to take my little brass, I tap on the mortar mount bolts a few times. The bosses. You're not gonna hurt them. It just helps seat everything. And now I'm just gonna do that same thing again. One more time. I'm doing it in a crisscross pattern around the engine, and then the transmission, it's just kind of sucking it all in. You can do it any way you want, really. So people go all the way to the end. See, this one loosened up. Okay. These ones right here really aren't moving now, so I'm just going to go around it one more time. Yeah, these are good. These are good. Come on. Alright, didn't realize the thing stopped recording, but I just tightened up all the screws anyway. Alright, so that's all I did for that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work right here. Just all nice and cleaned up inside. I'm going to take these two screws out. Boom, boom, boom. This is for your neutral safety switch, or your light, your neutral light that comes on. Okay, and there's a little cover, but before you put the cover on, there's a little spring and a little detent. Okay, this goes right inside, right in here. So I got to grab the spring for that. Okay, all right. So before we go any further, don't worry about the silicone. That's going to be cleaned up. You won't see much of that. That's because I had it up on its end there. So I made a boo-boo. When I was putting this together, you had these two shafts, and I told you about the thrust washers. The little thrust washer goes on this one, but you have to take the big thrust washer off because it does go on that shaft, but it goes on the outside of the shaft. And I remembered that after I started putting it together. I'm like, oh crap, I made a boo-boo. That thrust washer goes in there because you have to make sure that you can rotate your shafts all the way around. If you can't properly rotate them, then you have a problem. And so I got the crank. I could turn the crank, could rotate the crank, all fine. Could rotate the drum. I could rotate the Kickstarter, but I couldn't rotate this or the output shaft. And I was like, okay, got to check that out real quick. And that's what it was. It was the thrust. The thrust washer goes on the outside of this one for the clutch. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that first. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to do this detent here. All right, now the detent right here allows the transmission to properly select neutral. So, or any of the gears actually for that matter. So this is what the detent right here looks like. I got to clean it up because I got some silicone on it, which is one of the things that you will do, but you got to make sure you take it apart. Remember I told you to put that in last? That is why, because if you don't, you will get silicone on it and then it will jam up. So you don't want this thing to jam up on you. Just because it's right in that realm where the silicone is. Okay. Then once you get that, there is a spot for it. I don't know if you can see in there, so I'm going to try blowing you up here for a minute. Okay. You see that little dimple that's on there? Okay, so that right there is, see how I can move the shaft in and out? Alright, you need that right in that spot because as it turns, it's going to, what do you call it there? It's going to need some detent, and it's spring loaded. Okay, so you want to clean it up. Like I said, you want to do this kind of last because you will get silicone on it, and if you do, it could actually hold the detent in and silicone it and it'll stick, and then the shifter will just be all loosey-goosey, you know? Okay, so once you get that lined up in the center, like that, and then you can take your detent and put your detent in. And I'm just going to zap that on real quick. Alright, so I forgot to turn it on, but that's all tight. Now this whole engine is going to be cleaned. We're going to clean this whole engine. We took it apart like this because we pulled it off the engine and tore it down. But this whole engine is going to be degreased, which typically I would do first, but we didn't because of the way this engine was already apart through the diagnostic process. So like, if the engine was like that, I would degrease it first. But because we had to pull it apart on the bike already, with the side cover removed, we can't wash the bike frame, the bike motor. So we're going to, we did it this way. So it's all part of the process of, what do you call it there? Taking it apart. So we're stuck with it. We're all right with it. So we're going to keep going with it. All right. So now we have this side of the bike right here. And we have this is what do you call it there, where we left off. So let's get that on there. Stuff is not light. Okay. All right. So now for that right there takes the little plunger. So let me get that and get the cover. Okay. So now we're going to be putting the cover on this, and here's the what do you call it there, the output shaft, and down under here I'm going to hold the input shaft, and I'm going to rotate the output shaft. Now I can tell that the bike is in neutral because this one, I'm holding this bottom one down here. I'm holding this bottom one from turning. I'm stopping it, and I'm rotating this one. I could turn it, so that is neutral. So then what I'm going to do, I'm going to wipe this down, put this plug in. It's not really a plug, it's a detent piece. And there's a spring in there. So you be careful, it wants to spring out. See right there? It's spring loaded. Okay. That is going to hit against that little brass terminal which goes up to that screw. So make sure you clean it up really nice. Really good. Don't forget your O-ring. Like that. You can actually see it spring loaded. So you know it's making contact. Let me get the screw gun here. Okay, so now that's all connected. Now, if you have a Suzuki, say DS, what do you call it there, 100, or a bike that doesn't have any of the lights or any of the gauges, you know, like the DS 100, I'll show you what that plate would look like. It's basically, this is a plastic plate with a brass piece in it because it has to be insulated. And if you had a DS 100, you'd have the plate here, and it blocks it off completely, and there's no detent in there. It's just an empty hole. Okay, so that is how that is set up. Alright, so now we are making some pretty good headway. Let's go a tad bit further, and we'll flip this around and inspect what we're going to be doing later on. so we have that all situated there. And we have to put the shifter mechanism in. We have to put the idler sprocket here. We have to put the, what do you call it there? The Kickstarter in and get that all into place. And then, what else we have to do? Kickstarter, which is this one here, comes around. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, so we got to get that into place so we can kick that. And the shifter, that thrust washer, which we can put on now, actually. There's a thrust washer that goes on this shaft here. All right. I will be right back. Okay, so remember all the nice organized parts and pieces? Well, that's what we have here now. So we have the sprocket, the thrust washer. Show you how that goes on. I put the thrust washer right here. It has the idler gear. It sits on here like so. And then that goes on there. Okay, we got our pliers. Let me get you guys set a little bit here. Here we go. Alright, so we got our pliers. Okay. Nice. Idler gear. And then we need the lock for this. For the what do you call it there? For the Kickstarter, we'll get that all locked in and keyed in. Alright, then you have this stopper assembly. And this is how it goes. You have the inside piece, which faces down. 2 screws. And then a locking tab. So there's 1, 2, 3 pieces and 2 bolts. Okay? And this has to go in there, but it can't go in there because this is in the way. So I'm going to show you guys how I do it. What I do is I take a pair of pliers, like this, and I'm going to pull it so it's out of my way, so I got plenty of room. And I'm going to set this in place, which does fall apart, believe it or not. It is what it is. Just get used to working in like this kind of situation. And there it is, going to lock into like that. Alright, so then let me get my impact. I can wind those right in. And then put the locking tabs up on them. Now when you do this, you can use a 10mm socket, but you don't want to have pressure on it when you tighten it. So you want to use the plier trick again. Take the pressure off of it. Okay. Beautiful. Just like that. Then you're going to take your 2 tabs and bend them up to lock them. To do that, use a screwdriver or something you can use to do them with. They can be kind of a bear. It's important you use those locking tabs. Those locking tabs make it so the bolts can't unscrew with vibration. Okay, so now that is done and in. And then there is a gear. I have to clean it up a little bit first. Alright, now I'll show you how this goes. So, we're still working on the Kickstarter. We have the 2 bolts tight. The locking tabs are up. The guide is in. The idler gear, this is the idler gear right here. And then here are those dogs I was telling you about. There are more of them on this sprocket than there are the 6 down there. So what those do is those right there hook into here and push this gear. So right now when I put this on here, see how it goes in either direction? Okay, when I pull on this, the mechanism lifts up. Okay, this part right here lifts up and grabs those gears and turns it, turns the clutch, and then turns the crank. And that's your Kickstarter. So this fits on there all the way down. Just dogs right here, face down for those dogs. Once they get into the spot right there where they're going to go. Okay, like that. Then there's a thrust washer. And then the Kickstarter shaft is all complete. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put on our guides for our shifter. We're going to do that tonight and slide the actual shifter into place. So let's get the guides on first. Whoop. Knock that over. It's all right. 2 guides. One's going to go here. And the other one is going to go on the other side. These guides you really can't mess up because they're tapered. They have tapered holes and the other side's flat. Flat always goes down. And they're going to go up like that. Let's see here. How do these go on? Okay. So these can go on like this. Like that. And then this one comes down like this. Boom, boom, boom. Just like so. Alright, so once that's in, okay, so that's where those go, and then you have these 2 ears with the 2 springs and the 2 detents. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how this goes. This is the complicated part. This one right here is, when I first did it, it was a kind of a pain in the neck, because you got to squeeze these in because they just want to shoot out. So, and that is clean, believe it or not, just the metal stained. Okay, so I'm going to put this on like this, so it fits into the grooves and the holes. Okay, so that's sitting in there. You guys are better. Okay, so here's the back of the motor kickstand. I always have these facing that, okay, facing backwards. These 2 ears right here. Because if you don't, and you face them the other way, you're going to be way off. Then you have this guide right here that fits up in here like this. This actually grabs it underneath. Okay, and then you have this one. See how it's got this? It's going to go in between the gear and the front like so. So it's kind of a, you know, got to make sure you get it in the right spot. Okay, now let me get the, whatchamacallit there. Some screws started in this bad boy so it doesn't, I don't lose it. Okay, I'm just setting these in at the moment. Don't tighten any of them up yet. You want to make sure they're all loose before you tighten them. Okay, and the reason for that is because this piece right here, this plate, actually pushes one of these dogs in so it can actually move. Okay, see right here? Can move, and that gives it its freedom. Alright, now what I'm going to do, we get the drill set up here. Okay. Just make sure you clean up your mess when you're done. Make sure it's all nice and clean. Don't want any issues. And now for the shifter shaft. Okay. Now this right here is going to want to fit right in the middle of these gears. Alright. You have this spring here, which is always a complicated one to explain. It's more of a detent thing. It fits in here. What do you call it there? Like, see if I can do it. It's kind of a pain in the neck because it has to go on that screw as well. So, just a pain in the neck. Okay, so now we're going to take the shifter shaft. See how I got it set up right there? The pin and the pins. And that's these two springs here are going to fit right in there. Alright, take a little bit of assembly lube. Lubricate the shaft. Slide it in. Remember, it's going to have some part where it's going to get a little hard. That's okay. And then you want it to mesh with equal gears on both sides. Just like that. Yep. So when it shifts, it's going to be boom, and then boom. It's perfect. That's it. What a nice way to mesh. Okay. Cool to the beans on that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to install the crank pulley there. So we have the gear, a spacer. So we'll put the spacer on first. Then the Woodruff key. The gear has a flange on one side and nothing on the other. Which way does that go? Shoot, do we know? Yes, we do. Flange always goes down on these. And I'll show you why in a second. Gotta make sure the Woodruff key all the way in. Like that. Sometimes if it gets like that and you're having a hard time with it, angle it back, and then when you get it up in there and it's all lined up, take a flathead screwdriver, gently tap it, and it will square itself out. Okay? Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys how I knew that went down. So see right there, you can see the base of the crank. I'm going to pop this back up. See right here, this little shoulder? See if I can show you this. Okay, here's your shoulder right here. It goes like this. Put this spot back onto it like that. Now see how you can just see it? Okay, then you have your locking tab. Okay, and that fits into that groove. There's a little step on it. Come back up, we'll show you. Okay, so this little tab right here, that fits into the keyway. Now, we're just going to say we're going to put it the other way. Okay, let's take this back off. I want to show you. We'll put the thing on upside down. If we can get it on upside down. Well, just say we got it on upside down. The washer would be hanging off the sides of it, and it wouldn't be on there correctly. So that's how you know that goes facing down. Okay. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Then your locking tab goes in like so. And then the nut. Flat side goes down, bevel side goes up. We're not going to torque this tonight. We will tomorrow. Okay. And then, so what I'm going to do is, I know it's not torqued. I'm going to leave it so it's above where I'm at. Okay. Now, we have one other thing we have to put in, and that is the gear for the, what the heck you call it there, for the oil pump, which sits right up in here. So this has this right here. I'll show you this. We're going to set the oil pump drive shaft in. This oil pump drive shaft goes like this. There is a pin that goes through the top of it, which I don't really like that pin. I don't think it's the right one. Nope, it's not the correct one. Let me go get the right pin. Okay, got the right pin. It is a narrow pin. It looks like it's not the right one for the hole, but that is the correct one. Alright, make sure you wipe up the shaft, make sure there's nothing on it. It's already oiled. Slide this through and in. Like that. And this is going to mate with this gear. And go all the way through. Perfect. Okay, so now the way this works is the crankshaft is going to be spinning, and it's going to be turning the basket, the clutch basket, which is going to be turning this idle gear and the kickstarter gear. Now this kickstarter gear is in neutral right now. See how the gear is spinning but the shaft ain't moving? And then it's going to be operating the oil pump drive gear. That's how that works. Okay. I'm going to put my oil plug in here just so I don't lose it. Alright, we are running out of parts and pieces, which I love. Alright, and what else can we do on this side other than torquing that down? We can go get the basket. Okay, so we have the clutch basket. That's all about. So here is the gear that rides on the crank. Here is the gear that rides on the idle pulley. That's pretty much it right there. These are on rubber mounts, so it's supposed to do that. Okay, and we got to make it so it meshes in. There we go. Alright, and the thrust washers on the bottom of that. Now we have, let's see here. Boom, boom. Alright, now we have a thrust washer that fits right up in here like so. And then we're going to assemble our basket. So this is the clutch basket right here. This is the basket. This is the driver right here. Make sure you put your thrust washer at the bottom of that. And this right here is going to key in and fit right in there like so. And then we have to do same thing with this one. This little tab. This one doesn't have a key because it's already splined. So just make sure where when you knocked it down, it stays facing up. Okay. Like so. And then you have your nut. Flat side down, cone side up. And that's going to fit on there like so. Then you have your clutch discs, which these right here look good. I didn't see any issues with them. And there's a small side and there is a large side. Small side faces down first. Okay? There's plenty of life left in this clutch. Okay. Then a metal. You do look even heated up at one time, huh? Oh, you know what? Let me just check on something real quick. Okay. Well, this clutch is good, so we are going to use it. Oh, I see. Okay, it's just the oil that's on it. Makes it look darker. Put these into place. Inspect them as you go. What are you looking for when you inspect them? You're looking for signs of wear. You should be able to see the margins inside there. I know it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but these are all dark clutches, so that's just how they are. But you want to just inspect them as you go. They're not warped. Looks look decent. They're fitting right together. And that metal right there. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. That fits on there like so. Then we have to torque these down, which we'll do tomorrow on the next video, because we're going to finish off getting this together tomorrow. And don't forget your little plate with your that goes in the middle there before you put your cap on. See, this thing looks like it's in good shape. Clean up any of the little imperfections on, but it's darker in color, but that's normal on this. So, and there is a little thrust washer in there, right there, which gets overlooked because it goes on top of that bearing. And that sandwiches one at the bottom of the bearing too. And then that right there allows this thing to spin. And then the clutch pushes in and out. Okay, so we're at that point. So tomorrow we're going to torque this and that. Then after that's done, we're going to fight. Yes, and you heard me correct, fight. Because you have to pull these springs up and put these little pins in the spring. That's what holds it in. I prefer a bolt style, but this is the one that we are blessed with, if you will. So we are running out of parts here quite quickly, which is good. And yeah, those are for the jug. So what do you call it there? Tomorrow we're going to button up the clutch, torque this down, button up the clutch, put the gaskets on, and get this side sealed and put together. So anyway, guys, I want to say thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for hanging out with me. We are going to get this bike up and running this week. We have to decarbon the piston. Here's the actual piston, which is actually in decent shape. It just got a lot of carbon on it. So we're going to clean this thing up, and I'll show you guys how I do that, and inspect it all up, check it all out, and get this bike up and running again. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I will talk to you guys later. Wait, nope, not quite out yet. I want to cover this over. Okay. Always cover them up, but don't leave them out in the open. This is correct. I mean, it's stained, but it's not dirty. You know what I mean? Okay, so cool. And then, well, guys, I am out. Thank you for watching again. Thank you to all my new subscribers. Thank you for all your support. And I will talk to you guys later. I'm out.